Well, the important news is flashing for you, and it's clearly saying that the steel industry associations have asked for some anti-dumping duties. They want an imposition of safeguard duty between 30 and 40% on hot rolled coils, at the moment nil. And what we hear is some 2.5 percentage point increase in duties is what is being considered. So far cry from what is being demanded, but it will mean 2.5 percentage point more in terms of prices that you can pass on. It's not going to be easy to pass on, a 10% duty hike or a 25% duty hike, because the user industries are going to cry foul. As well, you have to justify anti-dumping duties in international fora, and that may not be that easy. As well, there is, brokerages like Credit Suisse are quoting chapter and verse, number and logs to tell you that even with the 25% duty imposition, most of the steel companies will not be able to generate an EBIT that will even pay their interest. The situation is as bad as that because of big capex plans at the wrong time in the cycle, and perhaps even gold plating of those capex costs. All said and done, that's the news that we are getting in.
And we have Anshu Sharma, who joins us with all the details of those news. Anshu, what are you gathering?
That's right. As we have reported that there is a huge credit exposure to the steel industry, as well as RBI governor has mentioned it today. We gather from our sources in the steel ministry that the government is considering import duty hike on steel products, which is flat and long products, for about 2.5%. Just a few months back, we saw a hike of 2.5%, where the product import duty hiked to 7.5% to 10%. Though this is being considered by the top level at Prime Minister's office, we understand that a daily check on these issues of the steel sectors are being considered from the Prime Minister's office. And Commerce Ministry has indicated that the steel industry should come with its association and ask for safeguard duty, which is being considered, where companies like JSW, SR Steel and others have put in requests for safeguard duty, which may come into effect in three to 4 months. Safeguard duty is for a short duration, which is right now at 0%, but it can go up to 30 to 40%, is what we understand, on hot rolled coil, which is the biggest issue for the steel industry right now.
Anshu, 1 minute. Anshu, they are asking for 30 to 40, but what the government appears to be giving is only 2.5 percentage points increase?
No, that is import duty. That is government is considering
on flats and longs.
On flats,
but flats are hot rolled coils are flats. Is there any duty specific for hot rolled coil?
Yeah, safeguard duty is different from import duty. 30 to 40% will give them a short-term relief in terms of few months of safeguard duty on those on that specific product of hot rolled coil, which is being considered between 30 to 40%. And if we rely on our Steel Ministry sources, it is considered that it may come within a week or two. Some announcement is likely, since Revenue Secretary, Finance Secretary, and at the Prime Minister's office level, these things are being discussed.
Okay. You probably would want to go back and find out if all these are compliant with our WTO obligations to impose these duties, because the understanding among countries is that duties ought not to be raised without adequate reason and adequate proof of dumping by other countries. So, one has to bring that proof forward before imposing these kinds of duties. But yes, clearly the ministry is working very hard. And actually, we put this question to the RBI governor as well, asking him whether he's worried about the NPLs in the steel sector and whether any package is coming. And let's hear him out. It's not as if much was revealed, but this is the governor's thoughts on NPLs in the steel sector.
The key question is, how does stress in the banking system play out? There are some important areas that are stressed. The power sector is one, steel sector is another. We are certainly monitoring that process and trying to urge that restructuring, if it when done, is deep, is appropriate, so that projects are put back on track. I think that is what we need for the continuing health of the, not just the banking system, but the economy.
All right, not giving away much, but saying that they are worried about it for good reason. Nigel D'Souza is joining us. Nigel, we've heard this before, 2.5 percentage point at least we've heard before. This 30-40% safeguard duty looks new and a bit daring. I'm not very sure they are WTO compliant, but 30-40 will make a difference. 2.5 won't.
30-40 will make a big difference, Lata, if that really comes about, because we have had numerous, various companies on the channel, and they've been saying 25% is a minimum that we want currently. So that's something that's the street will be okay with. 2.5% really will be absolutely nothing, because the street is saying at least take it till 15%. That's the maximum that they can take it to currently. So 2.5% will be okay, but that 30-40% that will make a big difference. And Lata, that's a very important point you make with regard to the WTO, because we have agreements that are signed with Korea as well as with Japan, and this entire anti-dumping duty, it's not applicable at around 7.5% and 10%. It's far lower in comparison to that. So those imports really will not get affected. The Chinese imports are the ones that get affected by anti-dumping duty. We are seeing the stocks run away currently, but that's really a temporary pop-up. If it comes about something like a 30-40%, that will make a difference at around 2.5%, even to around 15%, from around 7.5% around 10%, doesn't really change things.
Okay, I'm just reading out a Hindu Business Line article on the 10th of May, and the title of that article is Japan-Europe protest against India's safeguard probes on steel imports. It's just a safeguard probe on steel imports. It's not even an imposition of duty. But here's the first sentence. The EU and Japan have criticized India for frequent and frivolous use of safeguard measures, imposition of higher duties to protect domestic steel industry against import surges, and have asked New Delhi to review its use of the tool. We may still go ahead and use it, but these protests will have to be taken on board at some point, because you will only see those probably walls coming up against your textile imports, your textile exports. Further, those countries also questioned India's recent safeguard investigation on certain steel products in a recent meeting of the WTO's Committee on Safeguards. So these walls of protest also will come. So let not the market run away with the idea that the 30-40 safeguard is coming. I mean, JSW is up 3% on this news. Those who are bidding it up, beware.
That's right, Lata, and I just want to make another point. The JSW Steel, in their results con call, they categorically stated we're looking to sell more amount of our production in the domestic market rather than export. So they're going to get a lot of supply as well that will come in, because JSW Steel traditionally they used to sell around 20% in the export market. Now, in fact, they're looking to sell more in the domestic market. We already know there are so many capacities coming on stream, and that in fact prices are not going higher. So this will give some protection. If it goes at around 25 to 30%, 2.5% doesn't change things that much.
And 30-40% more expensive domestic steel. What happens to the consumer durable companies? You will create, you may perhaps reduce some sickness in steel, I doubt it, but you will create sickness in a whole host of user industries. I have my doubts about this. Until it is done, it is not done. 30-40 is a very tall number, and we have an expert on that joining us. Chintan Mehta of Sunidhi Securities is joining us on the phone line. Chintan, this is what our correspondent is picking up. There is a 2.5% import duty that's being contemplated, hike in import duty on flats and longs, and a separate 30 to 40% safeguard duty is being contemplated. First of all, do you think this is possible? And secondly, impact?
Yeah, so the first thing, the import duty of 2.5%, what we're considering, I guess even that would be a minuscule to change the dynamics of Indian steel industry at this point of time. See, Lata, we need to understand that we have free trade agreements from Japanese and Korean companies, so that won't stop. This duty won't stop that imports in India. So we are importing around 5 million tons. So will keep on continuing. So that won't change the dynamics.
But it may help. It may help fighting Chinese imports.
Certainly yes, no doubt about it. But at the end of the day, the demand in India should improve rather than it will help the price to a certain extent. When we talk to steel players, the mood is that then many capacities should shut down eventually. In the likes of many default companies which are present in India, they need to shut down the capacity to overall improve the demand scenario rather than these are temporary fixes which the government is trying to do in terms of import duties are concerned. That will help the margins here and there for some time. but it's not a long-run solution for the steel companies at this point of time.
All right, Chintan, thanks so much for joining in. Nigel on this side. Chintan, since we have you with us, could you tell us what is the cost of landed imported steel, and what is the current domestic price of steel? So we can get a broad understanding about how much does it need to potentially be increased to protect us and make domestic steel, more attractive than imported.
Right. See, at this point of time, the imported offers around 420, 430 in terms of Indian prices.
Okay.
The still, the imports we're getting from China are around $50 to $60 lesser. That's around 4,000 odd rupees lesser than what Indian price is. So, which is around 10% of the margins, additional margins which Indian companies are enjoying at this point of time compared to Chinese guys. So, however, nonetheless, we are fed by lower raw material prices domestically. So that is helping a bit. But 4,000 is not sustainable over the time. That has to narrow down eventually.
All right. Thanks a lot for joining in, Chintan and Nigel. At the same time, must also bring to your notice that the Nifty has reclaimed the 8,500 mark.